beautiful. Welcome.
We're Kiana and Megan.
Two wives, two mothers, and two women on a journey of rediscovering ourselves.
Megan is a boudoir and motherhood photographer and yoga instructor.
And Kiana is a health coach who specializes in supporting women and mothers,
While our professions may look different, our heart behind the space is the same.
helping women reconnect with who they are beyond the roles they carry.
We don't claim to have all the answers.
We're still learning, growing, and becoming right alongside you.
So pull up a chair and join us at the table. This is her rediscovery. There's so much about pregnancy and birth and the postpartum experience that no one can really prepare you for.
Yeah. It's all talked about, but nothing can compare to actually living it.
And it's different for everybody.
Yep.
So even if you feel prepared, you have all these books and you have all of these podcasts that you listen to about it, it's still.
You have a birth plan and it just doesn't necessarily always go as planned.
There's a saying that man plans and God laughs.
Yeah. That is a very strong saying.
Relatable though.
Very relatable.
There's so much that you can try to prepare for, like putting together a birth plan and putting a vision together and having your postpartum fourth trimester preparation. You can have those conversations. And then you go into labor 3 weeks early.
Every story is different and doesn't always pan out the way we want to, but that is motherhood, and that's what we're here to talk about today.
And other things postpartum that we're not going to sugarcoat, things like the breastfeeding journey, and even just you find strength in unexpected places.
Yeah, finding strength and hope through spirituality, through
Sure.
pregnancy and birth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let's dive in.
I had a birth plan in place for my birth and in the event that I needed to be in a hospital.
Yeah.
And I had talked to my midwife about my wants and my desires and my vision for the birth. And she was amazing and working with me to make it happen, making sure I had the golden hour, the first hour after birth of just skin to skin contact and no measurements, no poking and prodding, and just letting me hold her, attempting to get her to latch on. And then the delayed cord clamping until it turned white and stopped pulsating, however long that took. And I had Luis cut the cord. And I wanted him to catch the baby. And I wanted dim lights and soft music playing. So I came home from work not even a full week before I gave birth. And I had just a couple days at home to clean whatever I could, do whatever organization and nesting that I could. I had gotten through the laundry and sorting through the baby clothes to find the newborn size because I had been gifted a lot of clothes from friends and family. So I was going through that, sorting through the sizes, picking out her first outfit. My mom had ordered a newborn outfit for her like the week before. It didn't arrive in time for my really early birth. So we just put her in whatever we had. And we had a bedside bassinet because I was planning on co-sleeping, but having a bassinet for her,
Yeah.
I didn't want her in a separate room. But since she came so early, she was a little underdeveloped, like with her digestive tract, and she had really bad reflux.
Oh, yes.
So she had to be on an incline, otherwise she was just screaming, crying. If we tried to lay her down, she didn't like it. So we took turns holding her for the first like month of her life. We have a recliner that we would take naps with her, like contact naps. Louise had his shirt off the whole time. I had my shirt off the whole time. So we were skin to skin as much as possible. And it was so cute because we would take turns. He would give me a chance to sleep in the bed laying down, and he would sleep with her in the recliner so that she was elevated.
Yeah.
And then we would take turns. He would take a rest on the bed or get up and do whatever he needed to do, and I'd have her. So those were the most important things on my birth plan. And I was lucky to get all of those things with my midwife being respectful about it.
Despite your husband actually catching the baby.
That was the one thing that I
thing that
missed.
didn't.
Yeah.
But it's okay. She arrived safely like the torpedo she was. I'll be honest though, I only had a birth plan for McCoy for my fourth one because like I was saying before with my firstborn, I didn't know anything. I didn't know, like, I had heard, like, "Oh, have a birth plan." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go to the hospital and shoot a baby out. What more do I need to?" I never realized all the things that go into giving birth and all the options that you have.
Mhm. Oh, and the vitamin D and the vitamin K.
Oh, yeah, the vitamin K shots. Yeah, I didn't know any of that. And then the eye goop that they put on the babies too at the hospital. Yeah.
I denied all of that in my birth plan.
Yeah.
I was like, "God
I
knows what
denied
he's
that all
doing."
in my
Yeah,
home birth,
yeah.
but I didn't even know that it was an option to deny any of that with
Mhm.
my C-section babies. However, with my 3rd, though, I had learned that I could ask for delayed cord clamping, and that was the only thing that I had learned at that point. And so I did ask for that, but they had said due to certain reasons with it being a C-section, the longest that they could delay the cord clamping was 60 seconds. So I at least got that, but still it wasn't enough for me. Like, I felt so gypped because I'm like,
You really call that a delay?
I wouldn't call
60
it a delay.
seconds?
It's not. No. Because usually they're cutting the cord within like 10 to 30 seconds tops when you're having a C-section. So, yeah, and the doctor had taken the initiative with my 3rd one to be like, "Alright, we'll set a timer," and then as soon as the 60-second was up, he was like, "Alright, it's been 60 seconds, we're gonna cut it." And I'm just like, "Okay, I have any other option." So, but it didn't make sense to me though, because, like, yes, they have to deliver my placenta after the baby comes out, but at the same time, they could be delivering the placenta while he's still attached.
Yeah.
They don't have to wait and cut it and then deliver the placenta. They should be able to just
Doctor training baffles me.
it
It's
it's
so unnatural,
yeah.
and they call it a controlled environment,
Mm,
but it's still,
yeah. So,
am
but
I giving birth? Or
right?
am I the third wheel in this situation?
You are. Like, that's the thing that sucks about the C-sections is that they treat you like you're not even a human with rights. Like, it's really sad, and I'm sure that there's other hospitals out there and there's other states or whatever that I'm sure are fantastic and they treat you well and everything, but in my cases, it just wasn't what it was, and it's sad. I've heard there be really good C-section experiences at certain hospitals and stuff, but most of those are not in California, for one, and then there's other stories that I've heard about C-sections that are way worse than mine, and
Mm,
mine weren't that great, So, finally completely shifting after my 3rd, and I did at that moment think, "Okay, my 3rd, like, he's probably gonna be my last," right? I wasn't necessarily planning on having more even though I've always desired to have more, and eventually I work up the nerve to be like, "Alright, I wanna try again, I wanna have another baby." And before I even conceive, I'm doing all the research and seeing what my options are, and then we conceive, and I'm like, "Alright, this is happening, like, this is what I want." So, like, I told my husband from the get-go what I wanted, and he was so scared about it, though, because he did not know or understand what to expect because he's like, "Okay, you can still give birth vaginally at a hospital, and everything will be covered by insurance." I'm like, "No, that's not what's gonna happen because um, all of the OBs will not allow me to do what I wanna do because I've had previous C-sections. And that was when I was like, "We are going to have to pay a midwife out of pocket, figure it out, because I'm not stepping foot in a hospital to give birth because they will even if I am progressing and things are going great and they will still take me into a
they're
C-section.
gonna find a way
They're gonna
to get
find a
you.
way, yeah. Like, the only way that they wouldn't take me into a C-section is if I was literally giving birth in the car on the way there.
Mhm.
So, that was basically, like
That was your backup plan.
That
If you
was my
couldn't find a
that was my
midwife,
backup.
was
Yeah.
wait till you were
Yeah. So I was, because I didn't find my midwife until I was like, what, like 7 months along?
Mm.
I found her late
Mhm,
and she almost couldn't take me on.
mhm.
And so my backup plan was all right, I'm giving birth in the car on the way to the,
On the way to
the
the hospital.
hospital. Yeah, because I mean, I had taken the initiative to still go and see an OB throughout my pregnancy because, I hadn't
The
had a midwife
checkups and
yet, the
everything.
checkups, all the things. And, I had told them my birth plan, what I wanted, because I knew all the details. Like, I didn't want the vitamin K, I wanted the delayed cord clamping, all the things. And I remember seeing this doctor at St. Jude. She straight up told me, she made me cry. She was like, what you are asking for is completely unrealistic. There is no way we would ever allow you to go into labor, even if your water is to break on your own. Like, there is no way that we will let you progress in any kind of way. It's just not going to happen. And I was just so beside myself. And I'm like, I'm never going back to this person again, because she had even said, I have a team of 10 other OBs here and none of us would ever allow you to do it. And so I'm like, okay,
Thank you for your
thank you,
time.
guys. So a couple weeks later, I find another OB and I go to the office first, right? And it's this elderly lady who I asked them if they have kids. This chick never had kids. And so she goes and she's listening to my birth plan. She was like, okay, well, I think your best chance is this doctor. I'm going to schedule you an appointment with him and he will be your doctor because he's your best chance of having the VBAC that you want. So a week later, I come back. I have my appointment with him. And immediately seeing him and talking to him, I knew exactly why she put him on me. Because he was young and cute and thinking that he would be able to persuade me
To charm you out of your
to
birth
charm me out
plan.
of my birth plan. Yes. That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what he did. He tried so hard to persuade me out of it. He gave me 2 options. He was like, "Your plan is gonna have to be literally baby is coming out of you on the way to the hospital in order to get your VBAC, or what I can do is schedule you with," I forget what it's called, but basically this special doctor that I can go to, and they do like a specific ultrasound to check my C-section scar tissue and check the buildup to see if it were possible for me to have a VBAC. Because that's apparently like the barrier that would make you not be able to have a VBAC. And so I go and I get that done and I come back and he's like, "Okay, what did he say? What did the doctor say?" And I was like, "He said that I was good. Like I could have this VBAC, like everything's fine." And so I was like, "So we're going to do this VBAC, right?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "No, if you want to have a VBAC, you have to have it with him. You have to be with that doctor." And I'm like, "What the fuck? Like, you told me that if I went and had this ultrasound and everything was all good, that you would be okay and on board with me having the feedback." Like, you are so full of shit. Um, Luckily, during this time frame, about a week later, I think it was, I found my midwife and I told her everything. And she was like, okay, I just need you to basically go back to the OB and get your anatomy scan because that's all that she needed. And so I got the anatomy scan and I was like, I'm out. But even before seeing these OBs, I had listened to a couple of podcasts and this doctor, I think his name's like Dr. Chavoya. Everybody was recommending that he's the one to go to for VBAC, but my insurance wasn't covered by him. And so like they were like, all you need to do is schedule like a consultation with him.
Mhm.
And so that's what most midwives required of was to have this OB appointment with this guy and make sure that he would be comfortable moving forward with having a VBAC.
Mhm.
And so I basically did that. I spent $400 on a 1-hour conversation with this guy on the phone.
And it was a conversation, it wasn't
It was a
a hands-on
conversation.
exam, it
Yeah.
wasn't
No, I previously to the conversation, he had me send him my records from my births. So he was able to go over that and he basically told me, yeah, that's fine. It's up to you entirely. Because he goes on saying all the doctors I had seen, they had pulled all of these random statistics out of their asses because each one of them said something different. Because they were like, oh, it's like a 1% chance you can have a uterine rupture, and then it's like an extra 1% after each C-section you have. And then another one was like, oh, it's like 15% chance you'll have a uterine rupture. And I'm just like, you guys are just
show me the research that you're quoting, please.
so this OB that I was talking to, he was like, there's no legitimate research on it
Mm.
because there's only a certain amount of women who have even attempted to have a VBAC after 2 C-sections or 3 C-sections or 4, whatever. So there's no legitimate statistics that we can base it off of.
Mhm.
It's just by chance. And so he's like, Megan, it's entirely up to you. If this is what your heart is set on, go for it. And then it turns out I didn't even need that freaking conversation because Jade didn't even care about what that guy had to say because she was like, we're doing it anyway. Yeah, I finally found my midwife. All I had to do was get the anatomy scan. And then after that, I was like, Jade, do I really need to keep going back? Because every single time I went back, he would just like pester me and make me feel awful about my decision. And just like, your baby's gonna die. I had denied the gestational diabetes test because I never had it with my others, and I knew how awful that was to take. Like, it's not okay to be fed that. Like, it's horrible. And so I had told him, like, I'm not doing that. And so he's like, all right, well, if you're not gonna do that, that's fine, but you need to be checking your blood 3 times a day, 4 times a day for the next 2 weeks before you come and see me.
That's what I did.
And so I was like, "All right." So I did it for like 3 days, but at that point, I had called Jade and I was like, "Do I really need to go back?" She's like, "Nah, you're fine." So I didn't even go back. I didn't even go back. I really contemplated sending a birth photo to the office and being like, have the baby have the middle finger up or something.
Oh, that would have been
It
amazing.
happened. So it's frustrating because they're just like, well, even women who have had just one C-section, it's very rare that they're allowed to attempt to have a VBAC. And so,
The ownership in those words, like, triggers me.
yeah. And that's what I was taught throughout that whole pregnancy of mine, my last one, because everybody in like the VBAC groups, they were like, you need to be very careful with the words that you choose to say to the OB. You don't ask them, will you let me or will you allow me to try to have a vaginal birth? You ask them, will you support me? Will you support me? Not will you let me or will you allow me? Because it's
Mm.
not their damn decision to make. It is not.
Contrary to how they present the options to you makes it seem like you don't really have the option. They're choosing for you in how they present you the options.
Absolutely. But also, their whole thing is one, they're scared because of liability. Because, God forbid, if anything were to go south, it would be in their hands and they would get sued or whatever. But also, if anybody that doesn't know this and is listening, doctors get paid just about 3 times as much to do a C-section than they do to do an all natural birth. And they get paid more with natural births to do interventions, to give you the Pitocin, to give you the epidural, to break your water, to do any kind of interventions. They get paid more to do those things. So to not have any interventions at all at a hospital is like sadly really rare because they don't make any money off of you if you literally just use the room to pop a baby out and don't ask for any pain meds or anything Whereas they take you in for a C-section and they make bank. And it's just that's what's so heartbreaking. Like looking back at my first, I knew that I could handle the pain without the epidural, and I felt so pressured to do it anyway. And then going in, and I'm pretty sure that they saw how, like, naive I was and not knowing and not doing the research that they preyed on me, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I was their next C-section victim. So, yeah, there's that.
And this is why I would never.
Yeah. No, and I am so glad that you had decided that because to be honest, like at that point, if you had decided to go to a hospital and you didn't even consider home birth, I'd be like, please consider home birth. Please, please.
Every other birth story that I've ever heard at a hospital was so similar. It was just fear mongering.
They do
You
it the
have to
whole
do
time.
it. You have to do everything that I say exactly when I say to do it. Otherwise, you're going to kill your baby.
Yeah. Or you're gonna die.
Yeah. And even my mom didn't have like a horrible birth story with me, but they still weren't listening to her or taking her seriously because she still gave birth to me really fast.
Yeah.
She waited so long to even go to the hospital. So she was going through labor, having contractions, walking around the store with my dad, right? And they came to the hospital when they were ready to have me.
Yeah.
So she was still waiting out in the hallway. She didn't have a room yet.
That's
And
how
she's
it
like,
was with
"Hey
my
guys,
mom.
like I need my epidural. I need this. I need this." And they're like, "Ha ha ha. There's like four other women ahead of you for this." And she's like, "No, like look at me. I'm having this baby right now. You need to get me into a room and get me my epidural." And she had to force them to take her seriously.
Mhm.
And when they finally checked her, they were like, "My God, you're having this baby." She's like, "How long have I been trying to tell you that?
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to me."
My mom was the same exact way with me. I was her second, and she goes in there, but she was very petite with me, so she looked like she was, like, 5 months pregnant, and so they were like, "Lady, you're not in labor. You're fine. Like, go walk it off." And she comes back and she's like, "No, like, I'm having this baby. You need to get me my epidural. This baby's coming." And they go and check her and they're like, it's too late to have the
Oh
epidural.
my God.
You need to push." And yeah, I came shooting right out.
Good for you.
Yay. Yeah, so Zen was like me, torpedoed right into the world.
So, how is the healing process different for the C sections versus your natural birth?
Healing from a C-section is completely different than healing from a vaginal birth, and I gotta say C-section is horrendous because even though with a vaginal birth you are still very sensitive, um, and, navigating your new vagina, uh,
Literally.
especially if you have a tear, because I had a decent tear.
You needed stitches for your tear.
I needed stitches for my tear, but Jade did an amazing job. It all healed perfectly. It still took a while, and I felt like my butthole fell out. Like literally hemorrhoid upon hemorrhoid upon hemorrhoid. Like it was awful. Like honestly, I feel like my butthole was the worst side of the healing process than my vagina
It's
was.
not nearly as resilient. The vagina's built for it.
You're right. Yeah. And then like with my C-sections though, you were cut open layer after layer after layer, and your body is having to heal all of that. And God forbid if you sneeze, cough, or laugh. Like it was horrible, especially like after having my firstborn. Okay, so my mom is like my best friend, and you know how she is. She's freaking hilarious. She cracks a joke over everything, every single situation she could think of. She's saying something sarcastic or joking about something, or even just like her face expressions. And so I had to tell her, like, I can't be around you. Like, you make me laugh and it freaking hurts and I can't laugh. And so she's like, fine. But even her doing that, I'm like, Mom, stop it. I'm going to laugh. Like, so Yeah. Laughing, sneezing, coughing, any kind of sudden movement is horrible after having a
Mhm.
C-section. And to be honest though, with my first 2, I healed so great and so quickly. I healed beautifully, and it was easier with my second one. But with my third, it was the worst healing experience I have ever had because I ended up getting an infection, and I'm pretty sure I was probably allergic to the adult diapers that I was wearing.
Mm.
And it was just completely horrendous. So, with my first 2, I was healed within 2 to 3 weeks, and everything was better. But with my third, it took me 8 weeks because of the infection that developed. It was awful. It was awful, and so it was at that point where I was like, "If I am ever gonna have children again, I am never having a C-section again." Never. And so I had my home birth after that, and yeah, the healing process is completely freaking different. Completely different, and I'm sure it's different for everyone, even with, because like, I had 3 C-sections, and each time the healing process was different. So I'm sure even having multiple vaginal, the healing process is different each time because you could tear like crazy in one of them, but then not tear at all in the next one or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
it's just there's such a variety of things that could happen that lead to how you experience your healing process, I guess. So, I mean, how was your healing process?
All right. So looking back through rose-colored lenses, so to speak, because your memory paints it
Yeah,
like blocks out the bad parts in a way. So I think it was okay. I tore,
yeah,
but not enough to do stitches. My midwife said it would hurt more to stitch you up than it would be for you to just keep your legs closed.
mm,
Which I mean, I didn't know about leg binding, just like wrapping something around your thighs to remind you to keep them shut, and
yeah,
so that when you move and you get up, they're held
yeah.
together. So every time I opened my legs, it burned. It hurt so
Oh,
much.
no.
And it took like maybe 2 weeks
Mhm.
to completely heal from that. I was putting castor oil on it,
Yeah.
witch hazel pads
Mhm.
to help with the swelling and everything down there,
Yeah.
padsicles that I had prepped in the freezer. I had a squirter, the little bottle to
Yes,
wash
the
because you
Perry
shouldn't wipe.
bottles. Oh my gosh, those are
And my
amazing.
midwife gave me these herbs to make into a tea to
Mhm.
add to my Perry bottle as like an antiseptic rinse.
Yeah, that's what Jay did for me too.
Yeah. And that was okay. It was a lot of extra steps. It
Yeah.
was it was not glamorous, but I felt cared for. I felt confident in how I was
Mhm.
healing as naturally as possible. Navigating my new vagina, as you put it, it took a lot of getting used to.
Yeah.
The sensations of my body and sex afterwards, waiting the however many months they recommend you to wait,
Yeah, sex was not
the same.
not the same.
And that's scary at first.
Yeah.
But after a year, I would say my vagina went back to normal and sex felt normal again.
I feel like 'cause so I'm 8 months postpartum now. I feel like mine came back to normal sooner, thank God. That first time afterwards I was like, "Oh my god, I'm a hefty bag." Like, it was horrible. I'm like, "I'm sex is never gonna feel the same." It's still like, after the first time, I took a couple more weeks off. So I was like, "I'm not ready." So, eventually became ready to do it again, and it feels back to normal. I honestly think it's just, like, certain positions
Mm.
feel different
Yeah.
than they did before. So, I mean, that was kind of like That was a thing that I never experienced before with having C-sections, is nothing really happened down there, aside from my bladder and having that pressure, so I anytime, like, I sneeze or cough or whatever, I pee a little bit, right? That still happened even though I had C-sections, and that was what I had that conversation with my mom one time, and she was like, "Really? I thought that since you had C-sections, that would never happen." I was like, "Oh, no, it does." But now it happens even more so since I've had a vaginal
Yeah, because your pelvic floor is what
It's
weakens.
weak,
Yeah.
yeah. So, definitely having to build that back up again, that's and I can feel also my, like, diastasis recti, so I feel it even more so now than I did with my C-sections. 'Cause again, I was never aware of those things until, like, after my 3rd birth.
I think the pelvic floor thing is becoming an increasingly controversial topic because the medical advice now is don't develop your pelvic floor muscles. It works against a natural delivery, which is such BS. Like,
Yeah.
who did the research? I want to talk to them because you're not basing it off of real people.
Like,
You're
you're
basing it off of a theory of your understanding of the female body.
of them thinking that you strengthening it is gonna, like, hold the baby in there forever? Like, it's not gonna
So your pelvic floor needs to be able to relax to deliver the baby,
Right.
which is absolutely true. And if you have a really developed, or in some women actually have an overdeveloped pelvic floor where it's tense all the time and they have
Mhm.
trouble relaxing it.
Yeah.
So in that case, the inability to relax will work against it. But in strengthening your pelvic floor, you're practicing flexing and
And
releasing.
releasing, yes, so you're
Flexing and releasing. You're
yeah,
practicing both.
yeah, exactly.
And my mom, with having such an easy delivery, she told me how she was doing videos and exercises, and she had a really strong pelvic floor and it was so easy.
Mhm,
So I had it in my head from a younger age that it's important to have a strong pelvic floor to have a healthy delivery. When I was in my Pilates program, they confirmed that having a more controlled pelvic floor
mhm.
leads to a better delivery rather than not being in touch with those muscles at all, not knowing how it feels to tense and relax it, being disconnected from those muscles is
Mhm.
what's going to work against you. So do your own research.
Please.
Don't take your doctor's advice as an absolute truth because they are regurgitating information that they've been fed. It's not necessarily true all the time for everybody.
Definitely do your research and, like, get in tuned and aligned with your body. And I know it might be easier said than done because getting to know your body in that kind of way doesn't come easy to everybody. I I was not aware of being that in tune with my body until my 3rd birth. During my 3rd pregnancy, like, I could feel certain things. So, it was like, "Okay, I'm more in tune, like, I know what's going on, what's happening, and how my body is responding." And then it was even more so when I went and had my 4th, especially doing all the research and knowing all the things, it really helped. Whereas going in there completely blind, like I basically did with my 1st and my 2nd, things could have gone completely different if I had just done the research
Mhm.
and tuned in. So, if you're having your 1st baby or even your 2nd and your 1st didn't go as panned out as you wanted it to, you not only have to do the research, but just connect with yourself and start to notice the little things in your body and how your body responds to certain things, and you'll be able to like understand yourself more and trust your body and trust that you are very much capable of giving birth the natural way and the way that you want to give birth, because that's the trust and the faith that I had to have in myself in order to know that I could have my home birth after
Just
the
tagging on
research.
to that, having a relationship with God
Yeah.
and prayer and faith that He knows what He's doing with me, that He built my body for this specifically, helped me a lot with my confidence in my ability to give birth.
Yeah, and that's how it was for me too, because before getting pregnant with my 4th, even though technically I grew up as a Christian and I went to church every so often, religion wasn't really like a specific strict thing in my life, and it was very, like, whimsical, like, whatever, and, I felt very disconnected from God, and I didn't start to feel that connection again until I was planning my 4th, pregnancy and birth, and I gotta tell you, it feels really great. And now even more so this past, like, month or so, I've dove more into that, and I've actually started praying again, and I haven't prayed since I was a child.
Mm.
So, and I would pray every so often in adulthood, when, like, something traumatic happens, and I'm, like, praying for that person. But when it comes to having a daily thing of praying, I had done that since I was a child, and so this past, like, month or so, I've been able to reconnect, and it feels amazing, and then even when it came to giving birth for my home birth, I just had so much trust and so much faith, and I had so much love around me with you and my mom and Joelle and all of you guys just praying over me and loving me and trusting me and knowing that I could do it and that God had me and all of that. Like, it just having that support system and knowing that I could just surrender was the most at peace that I've ever felt in my life. So, it's not even just the physical difference of C-section and vaginal birth. It was literally just the spirituality and the environment and everything that changed it all for me and made it such a beautiful experience.
And when you really think about it, giving birth is probably one of the most spiritual experiences a
Yeah,
woman has in her life.
yeah.
The way I thought about it was I'm bringing a new soul into the world.
Mm,
I'm a portal bringing life
yeah.
into this world. Like, this is the closest I have ever been to the divine,
Mhm.
to be a portal for life.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that I was going to have this super spiritual experience, a super spiritual pregnancy, and just level up, right?
Mhm.
With my relationship with God. It didn't play out like that exactly, but it was still putting me on that path of
Yeah.
getting closer to God.
Yeah. Yeah. That's honestly, so I know in a previous episode, I believe I had mentioned that my technically my 3rd pregnancy was a miscarriage. And, um, after I had had that miscarriage, my friend Joelle, she gave me this book called Spirit Babies,
Mhm.
by Walter. I can't say his last name. Starts with an M though. But that book changed my entire perspective on birth and miscarriages and loss and just all those kinds of things because it that's kind of where my start to believing in God again was built, I guess, because in that book it shows you women are the portal to bringing new life into the world, a new soul. And I cannot recommend that book enough because it literally changed my life.
We'll link some of the books that we read during our pregnancy to prepare in the description in the
Yes.
show notes.
Yes, because I highly recommend you read that book. Whether you've had a miscarriage or even an abortion, you know, all those things are spoken about in the book, and it makes you realize, like, you are meant to be that child's mother, that soul's mother. That baby will come back to you one way or another. So there's this thing where he talks about it's like a soul contract. And when a soul is set to have a specific parent, then that parent will become its parent. But if that parent ever gets to the point where they decide to no longer have children, then that soul will connect with someone close to them and become that person's child because that soul contract isn't over. And so you'll still be a part of that child's life. So there was this one story where he ends up mentioning this one woman, I guess she kept having multiple miscarriages and she got to the point where she didn't even want to try anymore. And so she had like blocked it off, like she's not going to have anymore. And so then that soul went to her sister, I think. And so that soul became her niece or nephew. And she was able to have that contract still there. So,
Still have a nurturing relationship with
yeah.
that soul.
Yeah. Like, it's a really interesting book, and just seeing it from a whole different perspective because after having my miscarriage, I was completely lost, and even though about 2 months later I got pregnant with Marshall, I had symptoms in the beginning that I thought that I was gonna miscarry him also, and during my actual miscarriage, though, I had just lost one of my best friends. She had passed, and a few weeks before that. Literally, she passed the day after your dad's funeral, and so it literally came in threes. It was your dad first, and then it was Casey, and then it was my miscarriage, and it just all, like, those from February to May, basically, of 2022 was, like, the worst time in my life, but that book really saved me because it's something that I really clung to and I really needed. It's funny because when Joelle gave me the book, I let it sit on the shelf for like 2 or 3 weeks before I even touched it. And then I was like, "All right, what do I have to lose?" And being so depressed and down and just full of grief, it really like I cried throughout like the whole book. Just realizing, okay, like my baby is safe and is gonna come back to me one way or another. And so, I believe it did, anyway.
So many things shift once you have a baby. Your body continues changing even from pregnancy to after birth
Right.
because now you're figuring out how to lactate and how to latch and how to lose the weight that you gain from pregnancy, and your organs are going back into place. Your brain chemistry is still continuing to change. So much is still happening.
Yeah,
You're hormone dumping
yeah.
after you give birth. You have to detox from birth.
Literally.
That was wild when I was learning about that.
Yeah,
And your baby's going through all these changes. They're learning how to breathe air.
right.
They're learning how to cry and to drink milk, right? Or formula if you have to use that or if you
Yeah,
choose that.
yeah.
And they're getting acne. They're getting used to life in air,
You're right.
you know?
All the, like, chemicals and stuff around
Mhm.
them and yeah,
And then if you are breastfeeding, you're detoxing into your milk and to some extent.
yeah. Isn't that crazy?
It is.
But then breastfeeding too, your milk is like a special formula for your baby
It's
because
custom.
it's custom, because it changes due to gender of the baby. I don't know if you knew that.
Different how?
I There's some kind of, like, something to it. It's not, like, bad though, like, if because like, for me, I overproduced, and so I was pumping and I was selling my milk, and I was giving it to little baby girls because that's who happened to need them. I guess it is some kind of, like, hormonal thing in there, but it's not like it's gonna, you know, do any harm to a little girl if you're pumping for a little boy, you know? Um But yeah, I read about it somewhere, and then also the age of the baby too. You can tell the consistency of it
It
changes.
changes.
Like, you have your yellow colostrum, and
Mhm.
then, it's thin and then gets thicker or whatever, like, with their age, and then also when they're sick. or when you're sick, it changes.
When you eat a lot of greens, your milk it tints green.
I've
It
I
changes with your diet too.
I know, and I'm part of this pumping group, and this woman, she pumps pink, like, all the time,
All the time?
and people are like, "You have to be eating, like, food dyes or something," like, something is, like, red or pink that she's always eating that makes her milk come out pink because it's not blood. 'Cause I've
Because
seen
that is
some
a thing with
horrendous blood.
clogged
Yes.
ducts and causing blood to come out and turning it pink.
God, that's
But if
gotta
it's
be
all the
awful.
time and it's not painful, then
No, and then I saw that, a while back, Jade, my midwife, had posted that because she was pumping and breastfeeding, and she pumped blue milk.
shut up.
I'm not
Really?
kidding. Yeah, she pumped blue milk, and I'm like, "That is so amazing," because I think her baby was sick at the time. And it's just like this tinge that it gives because of the certain antibodies your body needs to give your baby. And so it changes like color and complete
I've
consistency and
never had
everything.
blue
Like,
milk.
yeah,
I've had green.
no, she literally, I'd never had green milk, but she literally had she posted a picture of it and it was like a tint of blue. And I'm like, that is so cool.
It's just amazing.
It really is. The things that a woman's body can do before, during, and after pregnancy is just
Nothing short of a miracle.
seriously. Yeah,
And I will say breastfeeding is not for everyone.
right. Yeah,
It is so full of challenges. I chose it for my baby and I eliminated all of the alternatives in my mind long before she ever arrived.
right.
So
Yeah,
I was dead set
yeah.
on breastfeeding her. And I went through engorgement, mastitis, clogged ducts. What else can go wrong? I went through all of
Yikes.
that in the first month of breastfeeding.
Oh
Oh,
gosh.
chafed nipples, damaged nipples, because she wasn't latching properly. She was
Yes.
damaging me.
Yeah, having to use nipple shields.
Yeah, I had open
Mhm.
wounds on both of my nipples within the first month of breastfeeding. It was arguably more painful than giving birth in my case
Yeah.
because it went on for so much longer
You literally had all the complications that could go wrong with
in the
breastfeeding in the
beginning.
very beginning,
Hmm.
and that's why a lot of people end up quitting.
Quitting because the pain is awful.
Yeah, it really is.
Each different complication is a different type of pain.
Yeah, yeah. That's how, like, with my first, because my nipples were, like, flat, basically, they're not, like, inverted, but they were flat, so I had to use a nipple shield to, like, protrude my nipples out in order for him to
Have something
latch.
to latch on.
Yeah, and so that took a couple weeks, but then, and I was dead set on breastfeeding my babies also. And it was really heartbreaking for me with my first because I basically had to stop breastfeeding at 6 months because when he was around 2 to 3 months, he started having really bad eczema, and his face and his whole body, it literally looked like he had third-degree burns, and I couldn't kiss him, and I was told because he was allergic to everything, literally everything that I was eating, basically. At that time, he was allergic to nuts, he was allergic to milk and gluten, like, everything. So, literally, if I were to continue breastfeeding him, I would basically have to become, like,
Vegan.
certain vegetables only and maybe chicken, and that was it. Like, I couldn't eat anything. And so, like, no bread, no nothing, and that was a really traumatic transition for me because I did try. And I gave myself that. I did try for, like, a good month, but yeah, at that point, I was like, "I'm gonna die." I have basically no nutrition in my body, and he's still having this allergic reaction, like, nothing is changing.
'Cause
So
there's still lactose in your breast milk
yes,
that
there's
he's
still,
reacting to.
yeah, and so I basically was forced to stop breastfeeding at 6 months, and I was completely devastated about it, but the issue was I was also on WIC, and they only are able to provide certain formulas, and he was allergic to them because he's allergic to soy and he's allergic to dairy. So, like, he couldn't have any of that. And even their, like, hypoallergenic formula, I tasted it and it was like drinking straight baking soda. It was disgusting. I'm like, I'm not feeding my baby this. And plus, I even tried to feed it to him and he completely just like vomited, would not take it. So I had to end up, he had goat's milk. I had to go buy the expensive ass goat's milk at Sprouts every week, and he was on goat's milk until he was a year old. And at that point, like, he would still have goat's milk, but then he eventually started to grow out of certain allergies, and now, he's 11, and now he's down to being just allergic to peanuts, eggs, and hazelnut on top of all of his other environmental and animal allergies. But when it came to food, those are the 3 that he has left, and he's most likely stuck with for life. But yeah, when he was a baby, he was allergic to literally everything, and it was devastating. Devastating. But I was bound and determined to breastfeed my next babies, and I did so with my second. I breastfed him for 17 months, and even though he was allergic to eggs, I cut out eggs in my diet, and I was okay with that. So, yeah, I breastfed him for 17 months until, he was just 5-stage clinger and I couldn't handle it anymore.
5-stage clear?
Yeah.
What is
He just clung to me constantly, just basically a Velcro baby. And being 17 months, a year and a half old basically, and it was just constant. Like, he would not go to anybody else. So I had like no alone time whatsoever, and I couldn't handle it anymore. And so I stopped cold turkey. I was really sad about it, but I was at a point where I was so fed up and getting detached from it that I couldn't take it anymore. So I just stopped. I wish I could have handled going longer. Because now that I breastfed my third until he was 26 months. Yeah, because I stopped breastfeeding during my pregnancy with McCoy
right.
because I kept having Braxton Hicks and I didn't want to go into labor too soon. So that's the only reason why I stopped. Otherwise, I probably would have tandem fed. That's what initially my goal was to tandem feed until Marshall turned 3, but that's not what happened, which is fine. But that's the other thing too is with your milk. Like, when you tandem feed, it's freaking awesome. I saw this one post where this woman, she breastfed her newborn on one and then her toddler on the other, and then she pumped, and the milk looked entirely different from each breast.
Right.
And this is just, it's incredible.
It's science experiments
It
in
really
real
is.
life.
It really is. It's so cool. You don't have to be in a lab to do these kind of tests.
That's
Just do it
true.
at home.
Mhm. Aside from all of the complications from me breastfeeding, I really enjoyed it because once I got through all of that, it was a cakewalk.
Yeah.
And it was so much easier to latch and feed her than it was to pump
Oh, yeah.
because I tried pumping and I pumped a little bit, but my midwife warned me against pumping too much because then I would overproduce and then I would deal with more of those complications again, like engorgement and clogged ducts if I'm overproducing. I was a just enougher.
Yeah.
So if I got sick or if I didn't drink enough water that day or, you know, anything would tank my supply,
Yeah.
then I wouldn't have enough to feed her. And then she would cry because she would go hungry, especially when she was sick and I wasn't drinking enough water.
Or
She
when
would
you were
only want a
sick.
nurse and then she would drain me and then still be hungry or still want more comfort. And then she would cry and cry. And I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? I was always jealous of overproducers and who had a milk stash in the freezer.
Well, it's why you asked me for some of mine.
Yeah. And I just wished I had my own because I did have a handful of bags in the freezer
Mhm.
and she would go through it so fast when she would get sick. you know?
Yeah.
And if you ever tried to have a date night or be away from your baby for a few hours for anything and you needed to leave them with milk, you need that.
Yeah, but I remember you got sick and you took, like, cough medicine or something.
I didn't realize
And
all of the things in the world that can take your supply.
yeah,
I took, yeah,
yeah,
cold medicine
mhm,
and I almost dried out completely,
yeah,
which was such a hurdle
yeah,
to come back from.
yeah. That's what happened with my mom because she was a just enougher, I guess, and she took Sudafed and completely dried up. I was drawing blood from
Oh my
her,
God.
so, yeah, she had to put me on formula.
I kept breastfeeding up until just very recently. I got up to 22 months and I was hoping to get to 2 years
Yeah.
of breastfeeding. So I got really
Got
close,
very close, yeah.
but it felt like a good time to stop with my health and the things that I'm trying to rebalance with my hormones and with detoxing. I had to do everything breastfeeding friendly, baby friendly. So my health was kind of, it wasn't healing or progressing as well as it could have if I
Mhm,
hadn't been breastfeeding, doing it slowly and more gently
mhm.
with breastfeeding. I work with a holistic chiropractor
Yeah.
who helps supervise the process and monitor the process to make sure I'm doing it safely for me and for the baby because detoxing can be super dangerous while you're breastfeeding or pregnant if you do it too fast.
But, I mean, we get to I feel like when it comes to breastfeeding, I mean, there are situations like mine where it does have to, like, abruptly stop, because I have a friend who had told me she had to force the stop because she had to go under surgery, and she couldn't breastfeed her baby anymore. There's certain situations like that or, like, the allergy situation like mine where, like, it has to come to an abrupt stop, but
Mhm.
in most cases, you and baby get into this certain kind of rhythm, and then it's an easy transition out. Like, it just comes naturally, and it's not like a forced thing.
So I will say I did have to insist in the weaning process with my daughter.
Yeah,
It wasn't a baby led weaning.
right.
So she was obviously on solids and had been for a while. My milk supply, I had always had to go the extra mile to keep my supply up,
Yeah.
and I was able to transition her just from all day, all night to just at night, and then throughout the night, she would wake up 2 or 3 times to feed. Even after you're old, she was still waking up 3 or 4 times a night to feed, and it was so rare that she would
That's
actually
a
sleep
lot.
through the night, and I would talk to my doctor about it. Is this normal? Is this just out of habit? Is it just to nurse and to breastfeed that she's waking up? And he helped me navigate. It could be, she needs more of these fats. She needs more of these. And so I started giving her different types of foods to fill those
Compensate,
gaps.
compensate,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it helped a little bit with her sleeping, but it really was just habitual waking through the night to nurse. It wasn't even necessary because once I was allowing myself to dry up to
Mhm.
continue the weaning from there.
Yeah,
So when she was draining me completely and then drawing nothing, it was less incentive for her to continue waking to nurse throughout the night.
right.
And then it was only 1 or 2 times a night. And then as I continued neglecting my supply to finish the weaning process, she was more okay with it. She still cried. It was still hard for her when I
Mhm.
was like, especially from the transition from day to night,
Yeah.
she would cry. And I just had to tell her no and hold her through it. And I'm sorry. I know
It's
you
so
want this,
heartbreaking.
but this is what's gonna happen. This is for nighttime. When we're ready for sleep, will nurse, and then even
Mhm.
throughout the night, when she would drain me and want more and she would cry, I would just hold her, console her, just talk to her through it, calm her down,
Yeah.
give her alternatives so that we had something. And then I had to shift the bedtime routines to include different things. So it used to be the nursing was the very last part of the bedtime routine and she would fall asleep latched on. So I had to shift that to all right, we're going upstairs to get ready for bed. Let's nurse first, and then we'll take the bath. And so disrupting that routine
That's
also
smart.
helped
That's
with the weaning, because then it wasn't the pinnacle of the night. It was, all right, let's do this, and then let's go take a bath, and then I'll sing you your lullabies, and now we pray together.
mhm,
And disrupting that routine helped shift something in her brain as well, and made it easier for her to accept different additions to the bedtime routine,
mhm,
incorporating brushing her teeth in a different point in time, and then brushing teeth was the last thing that we did, or the lullaby. So I wouldn't do the same routine consistently every night. I kept changing the order that we did things to keep the changes less noticeable, less drastic, so to speak. And bedtime routine is still shifting as she's growing into a toddler and hitting 2 years and going through even different developmental stages.
mhm.
Now she's fighting sleep
Yeah.
and having to navigate the tantrums and the meltdowns of
Yeah.
not wanting to go to sleep.
Oh, that stage is glorious.
Mhm. I love
It's
it.
so much fun.
It is.
Yeah.
All right, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and if there is anything that we are hoping to leave you with, it is to do your research ahead of time. If you're expecting a baby soon, connect with online communities, hear other people's birth stories, and try to come up with your ideal birth plan, and to really just know what your rights are as a mother.
And don't just rely on one doctor's opinion. Don't be afraid to get a second opinion and learn how to advocate for yourself and your baby because your birth story is important too.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Her Rediscovery.
If today's episode spoke to you, share it with a woman who needs to feel seen.
And take one small step this week toward the woman you're becoming.
She was never lost.
She was just waiting to be rediscovered. We'll
We'll
see
see
you
you
next
next week.
week.